Hello, this is a presentation about basic genetics. So it's going to go over some of the most basic concepts, and be forewarned, if you don't get this stuff down, you need to, otherwise you're going to be super duper confused, so pay attention. Alright, so there's this dude named Mendel, okay? He was an Austrian monk, he lived in the 1800s, and he loved pea plants. So by crossing different pea plants and looking at purple pea plants and yellow pea plants and tall pea plants and short pea plants and all the types of pea plants, he discovered three uber important things, okay? And these are his three laws. Number one, inherited traits are passed from parent to children. So when you think about throughout history, the things that we take for granted shouldn't always be taken for granted, because there was a time when we did not know how it was that you look like your parents. You inherit two sets of genes, one from each parent. So each parent delivers half, okay? It doesn't mean that you're going to be like halvesies everywhere. Some of you look more like your mom, some of you look more like your dad, but theoretically you do have two sets of genes, one from each parent. And the last one, some things may not be observable, but could be passed to the next generation, like you might be a carrier. So this is Miss Muir speaking in case you didn't know. So something about me is my mom and my sister both have red hair. I do not have red hair. So, but I do have a possibility of having a redheaded baby just because it runs in my family. You can't observe that. You wouldn't know that about me without me telling you about that, but it can be carried from one generation to the next. So each person has two copies of every gene, one from mom and one from dad. We know that because of fertilization. Egg and sperm make a baby, so half come from mom, half come from dad. So these genes come in different variation known as alleles that can express different traits. I think about genes as like ice cream, okay? Ice cream has many, many different flavors. Those flavors are like alleles, okay? You can have chocolate ice cream, you can have vanilla ice cream. The vanilla and the chocolate are alleles. They're alternative versions. They're variations of that gene. So, for example, two alleles in the gene for freckles are inherited from mom and dad. So your mom, for example, might have big F, and you should know because of your vocabulary that big F is dominant. Little f would be recessive, meaning that the big F will always cover up the little f. And again, we're doing Mendelian inheritance. Log this away because this won't always be the case. So if you have big F, little f, one of them's going to come from mom and one of them's going to come from dad. So this thing is a lot about Harry Potter, because Harry Potter's bomb. If you haven't seen it, you totally should. And it talks a lot about genetic inheritance. Did you know? So if you want, you can pause the video and you can think about, okay, what are all the things that they talked about as far as genetic inheritance, about people getting things from their mom or dad or different traits. So pause it. Here are some quotes from the books that are about the physical traits in Harry Potter. So for example, all the Weasleys look alike. Okay, they also look like that in the movie, spoiler alert. So this quote is about Hagrid, saying he's twice as tall and 5 times as wide. He's a big dude. And they talk about Harry a lot, having black hair from his dad and green eyes from his mom. And Draco Malfoy has a strong resemblance to his parents in the movies as well. Both of them have blonde hair. So to apply this genetics to the Harry Potter, we have some phenotypes. Okay, so phenotypes, remember, is observable traits. So what I would do is I would pause the video and think about, okay, in this previous slide, what phenotypes was I talking about? Okay, ready, set, boom. So we talked about freckles with the Weasleys, hair color with Draco, Harry, and the Weasleys, eye color with Harry, and height when talking about Hagrid. All of those things are phenotypes. So genetic traits can be described in two ways. So phenotype is the observable, okay, the things that you can see or measure. A genotype is going to be kind of what your genes say, okay? Genotype, phenotype, think photograph and your genes. So often this consists of two letters that represents an allele pair that results in a phenotype. Okay, so for example, with freckles, you have two possible phenotypes. Okay, you can either have freckles or you cannot. Two different possibilities. So a genotype are going to be based off of letters. So you can use whatever letter you want, but in this case we're going to use F for freckles. So F, big F is dominant, meaning you have freckles. Little f, recessive, no freckles. So if using big and little f, what are all the possible genotypes for freckles? Okay, I would pause the video, think about this, maybe write it down, just so that way we're clear. Ready, set. So genotype, remember, are the alleles. Okay, they're the letters, they're the genes. Phenotype is what you see. So if you have big F, you'd be, spoiler alert, homozygous, and you would have freckles. Big F, little f, you would also have freckles because in Mendelian Inheritance, big F covers up the little f, okay? Little f is kind of like a doormat, okay? He gets covered up because this one's dominant. Just like if you have a dominant personality, you are going to be covering up everyone who's a little bit more meeker and timid. Little f, however, because you don't have a big F to mask anything, you're going to have no freckles or show that recessive phenotype. So remember, one dominant allele, or the big F or any other capital letter, is sufficient for its traits, meaning that if you have one big letter, you're going to see that trait. Okay, you're going to cover up the uncapitalized recessive allele. So here's another example with red hair. So red hair is recessive to brown. So big red hair is little, okay? So that is going to be, little letter is recessive. Brown hair is big R. So doing the same thing with genotypes, maybe pause the video, think about it. Okay, so if I big R, brown hair. Big R, brown hair. Little r, you're going to have red hair because, again, it doesn't have a big R to cover it up. So now we're going to do some Punnett squares and we're going to predict some things. So, for example, aka, like, I would do this in your notebook, friend. Mom has freckles and dad has none, and each parent is homozygous. Homo, think homosexual, fam, like same sex, okay? So you have two alleles in the genes that are the same. So mom, if she has freckles and she's homozygous, think about her letters. Is she going to have two capitals, a capital and lowercase, or two lowercase? Same thing with dad if he has no freckles. Think about it, write it down, pause if you need to. I'm moving on. Mom, because she has freckles and is homozygous, she's big. Dad, little. So we're going to put this thing up in a Punnett square. Okay, that's what this thingamajig is. So this Punnett square can be used as a tool that can show you, okay, if I have a mom that looks like this and a dad that looks like this, what are the babies going to look like? Okay, so when you think about it, if this is a baby and this is from mom, what cell is this that's going to be meeting with this cell? Think about it. Think back to meiosis. Girl cell, boy cell, egg cell, sperm cell. This is a fertilization box, friends. Okay, so all we got to do is I play the matchy-match game. So this guy comes down, this guy comes over. Boom. So all of the kids are going to look the same. They're all going to be big F, little f. Okay, so think about their phenotype. If you have a big F, are you going to have freckles? Yes or no? You right. You are going to have freckles. Okay, 100% of their kids have freckles. So if I were to ask for the genotype ratio, I would just say 100% are big F, little f, or 4 out of 4 are big F, little f. With phenotype, I'm asking, what's the kid going to look like? In this case, 100% are going to have freckles. Okay, I can either show that as a percent or a fraction. Take a pick. So here's another one. If both of them are heterozygous and they have freckles, remember hetero, just like heterosexual, you are attracted to a different sex. So two alleles from the gene are different. So what would their genotypes be? Think about it. Write it down. I'm moving on. Big F, little f. Heterozygous, these are different. So again, think about phenotype. If I have a big F, am I going to have freckles? Yes or no? So again, I'm going to put this thing in my Punnett square. Boom. So then I'm going to play the matchy-match game. Pause the video. Do it yourself. Okay, put match the different alleles in each box, okay? Then, I don't know, why don't you take a stab at the genotype phenotype ratio and percentages? I'm going to cover it in like 2 shakes, but try it yourself. So if this is what it looks like, so if I have a big F baby, I would have, based off of this union, a 25% chance of having a baby that's a big F genotype. A 50% chance of having big F, little f baby, and a 25% chance of little f. Because these guys have the big Fs, I have a 75% chance that their kid is going to have freckles, and a 25% chance that you're going to have with no freckles. And this doesn't mean that if I have 4 kids, I have 1 freckleless and 3 freckled kids. This is with every pregnancy you have this chance, okay? Keep that in mind. And we just did that. Pause the video if you want to look at this further, but we just did it. Let's talk about the Weasley family, okay? So we're going to talk about freckles and red hair. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about dihybrid crosses, and we can put this in a monster Punnett square box, but just like hold on to that thought. We're just going to do 2 different Punnett squares to show the possibilities of having hair color and freckles. So, if all Weasley children have freckles, they have a 100% probability, and the possible genotypes that they're going to have red hair, we automatically know are going to be little r. Because, and if you have red hair with freckles, you can either be big F, little f, or big, okay? So here we're kind of working backwards. Okay, we're looking at the babies, okay? And we are kind of going to try to identify what the parents are. So if I have babies that are all redheaded babies, I know that there can't be a big R in there anywhere. Both parents have to be red hair. And if you watch the movie, the parents have red hair too. Okay? So here, because I know that all kids have freckles, I know at least 1 parent probs has a big F, if not 2 big Fs. So here are some practice problems. And honestly, I'm just probably going to pause, have the video, show it, maybe explain the answer a little bit, but this is kind of on your own, okay? Go through it. So question number 1, question number 2. Look at it, do it, I'm going to go over it. So these are some examples that we will be talking about that are traits that operate through Mendelian inheritance, meaning if you have a big R and a little r, you're going to be able to roll your tongue. So we did a human traits lab before this, so you should be able to see some of these, but ask your teacher if you want to try to identify if you have some of these traits. Think about making babies, and this should be familiar to you, but all of these things operate through Mendelian inheritance. It really is that simple. Let me know if you have any questions, but make sure you are doing those practice problems that I kind of breezed through earlier, and let me know if you have any questions.